Today, I'm talking about The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum and the 1939 movie adaptation starring Judy Garland. Hey there, I'm Jessica, and this is Bookshelf to Big Screen. If you're new to the channel, I take a look at books that have been adapted to the big or small screen and tell you what changed. So if you only watch the movie and don't want to look like a fool at book club, be sure to subscribe. The story follows Dorothy, a young girl living on a farm in Kansas with her aunt and uncle. She's carried away from her home by a tornado and lands in a new world with strange people and creatures. She goes on an adventure through this new world and must overcome many obstacles in her attempt to get back home. Real quick, if you want to avoid any spoilers, sections with spoilers are marked in the description below, so you can just skip past them and watch the spoiler-free bits. In both the book and movie, Dorothy's home in Kansas is described as gray and dull. In the book, the blistering sun had baked the color out of everything, and this hard life had worn on Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, who never laughed or smiled. The movie starts off in sepia tones, which I believe puts an emphasis on how dull their life in Kansas was. Dorothy is unable to get to the storm cellar when a cyclone hits, and she and her dog, Toto, are carried away in her house. When the house lands, Dorothy is in a new world where she's told that her house has landed on and killed the Wicked Witch of the East. On her way to see the wizard, Dorothy comes across a talking scarecrow who wants a brain, a tin man who would like a heart, and a lion who lacks courage. Dorothy agrees to let them accompany her to see the wizard, whom they believe could help them all. The Wicked Witch of the West has one weakness: water. In the end, Dorothy finds out that she had the ability to go home at any time by using her very powerful magic slippers. In the movie, all the story's main characters are introduced as people Dorothy knows in Kansas. The Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion are all farmhands that Dorothy knows well. The Wicked Witch of the West is a mean neighbor who doesn't like Toto. And the Wizard is a traveling fortune teller that Dorothy just happens to meet before the cyclone hits. In the book, the characters she meets in the Land of Oz are all new to her and do not exist in her life back in Kansas. There's a few things that are different when Dorothy's house lands on the East Witch. In the movie, Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, appears first to greet Dorothy and asks if she's a good witch or a bad witch, because she must be a witch since she's killed the East Witch. She tells Dorothy she's freed the Munchkins from the East Witch. While they're celebrating, the Wicked Witch of the West appears, angry that her sister has been killed. When she goes for the East Witch's ruby slippers, Glinda magically puts them on Dorothy's feet and tells her that their magic is powerful. The Wicked Witch leaves, promising to make Dorothy pay for what she's done. In the book, Glinda is the Good Witch of the South, and Dorothy doesn't meet her until the end of the book. She's first greeted by the Munchkins and then the Witch of the North, whose name is never given. Also, the East Witch's magic slippers are silver, and the West Witch doesn't show up until later in the story. Finally, the North Witch gives her a kiss on the forehead for protection on her journey. Glinda does give Dorothy a kiss in the movie, but there's no real significance. In the book, it's a pretty big deal, and it's something that can be seen by other people and creatures, which keeps her from getting hurt later in the book. In the movie, Dorothy and the Scarecrow are attacked by trees. After they find the Tin Man, the Wicked Witch warns Scarecrow and Tin Man not to help Dorothy. After Lion joins the group, the Wicked Witch creates a spell to poison a field of poppies to put the group to sleep. Dorothy, Toto, and Lion fall asleep just before they're out of the field, but Tin Man and Scarecrow call for help, and Glinda uses magic to make it snow, which wakes them up. In the book, they don't encounter the Wicked Witch or the fighting trees until after they leave Emerald City. They do see a lot of action though. They're chased by creatures with the body of a bear and the head of a tiger through the forest, which they manage to escape by chopping down a bridge after they've crossed, preventing the creatures from following them. Then they use a raft to cross a river, but there's a strong current and Scarecrow gets stuck on a pole while the raft floats away. The others finally get across, but they are way off course. A talking stork helps them save Scarecrow and they're reunited, but they still have to walk through the poppies to get back to the road. The poppies naturally have something that makes people sleep. It's not something that the Wicked Witch does. When Dorothy starts to fall asleep, the Tin Man and Scarecrow tell Lion to run through the field as fast as he can, and they carry Dorothy out. They find Lion, who didn't make it out of the field, and they leave him there, knowing they'll never be able to carry him out. Once they're back on the road waiting for Dorothy to wake up, the Tin Man sees a wildcat chasing a field mouse and kills the wildcat to save the mouse. The mouse turns out to be the queen of the field mice and says that her kingdom will forever serve the Tin Man for having saved her. So they ask the mice to carry the lion out of the field, and they are all reunited once more. In the movie, when they reach Emerald City, everyone is dressed in green, and the group is taken to wash up before meeting Oz. The Wicked Witch sends a message to surrender, and everyone rushes to see the wizard. At first, the wizard refuses to see them, but the guard feels bad for them and lets them in. The wizard appears as a giant floating head and says that he will grant their requests, but only if they prove they're worthy by bringing him the Wicked Witch's broomstick. In the book, not only does everyone wear green, but their skin also appears to be green too. Later we find out this is a trick with some tinted goggles that everyone is required to wear when they're inside the city. They all do rest and freshen up, but it's not quite so spa-like as in the movie. Also, Dorothy changes from her signature blue gingham dress into a green one, which she wears for the rest of the story, which actually turns out to be white once they take off the goggles and leave the city. The wizard will only see them individually, and he appears in a different form to each one. For Dorothy, he's the giant head. For the Scarecrow, he's a lady with wings. For Tin Man, he's a beast with the head of a rhino who has 5 eyes, 5 arms, and 5 legs. And for Lion, he's a giant ball of fire. He tells each of them that he will not grant any wishes until the Wicked Witch is dead. In the movie, the group sets out west through a haunted forest. The witch uses her crystal ball to spy on them, and she sends her flying monkeys after them. She tells them to bring her the little girl and her dog unharmed and to take care of the ruby slippers, which she wants most of all. The flying monkeys attack Lion and the Tin Man, pull Scarecrow apart, and carry Dorothy and Toto off to the witch's castle. In the book, the witch doesn't have a crystal ball, but she does have one eye, only one eye, that is as powerful as a telescope, so she can see everywhere. When she sees the group heading her way, she wants to kill them all. She's not interested in taking Dorothy prisoner. First, she sends her pack of 40 wolves after them, but Tin Man easily kills them all. Next, she sends all the crows to peck out their eyes, but Scarecrow wrings their necks. Then she sends the black bees to sting them to death, but the Tin Man covers the others with the straw from Scarecrow and lets the bees sting him, so the bees' stingers just fall off and they die. Before she finally calls upon the flying monkeys, the witch sends the Winkies, who are her slaves. But Lion roars loudly and scares them away. What's interesting about the flying monkeys in the book is that they are not the witch's faithful servants the way they appear to be in the movie. She has a golden cap that grants her 3 wishes from the flying monkeys, and she has to do a special chant to summon them. They only bring Dorothy and Toto back to the witch because they see the kiss from the North Witch and refuse to hurt Dorothy. One last difference here is that the flying monkeys also tie up Lion and take him back to the witch because she decided she wanted to enslave him and use him as a workhorse. In the movie, the witch threatens to throw Toto into the river, so Dorothy agrees to give her the slippers. but the shoes won't come off while Dorothy is alive. Toto manages to escape and leads the others back to Dorothy. They sneak in, dressed as guards, and find Dorothy, but the witch catches them. She tries to set Scarecrow on fire again, and Dorothy throws a bucket of water to put the fire out, which also melts the witch. The guards hail Dorothy for killing the witch and give her the broom. In the book, Dorothy and Lion are together at the castle. The witch is eager to get the slippers, but Dorothy only takes them off when she bathes, and the witch is afraid of water. One day, one of her slippers falls off and the witch grabs it. Dorothy gets so mad, she throws a bucket of water on her and she melts. After Dorothy tells the Winkies they're free, she asks them to help save Tin Man and Scarecrow, who were left stranded after the flying monkeys' attack. They actually stay at the castle for a little while, and the Winkies ask Tin Man to be their ruler. He wants to accept, but first wants to return to the wizard to get his heart. In the movie, the group is back in front of the wizard. They give him the broom and ask him to keep his promise. The wizard says he needs to think about it and tells them to come back the next day. But Toto runs over and pulls a curtain, revealing the man pretending to be the powerful Oz. The wizard pacifies them by giving them the thing they want. He gives Scarecrow a college degree, making him smarter. He gives Lion a hero's medal for his bravery. He gives the Tin Man his heart, and he says he'll take Dorothy back to Kansas himself in his hot air balloon. The wizard leaves Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion in charge of Emerald City, and just as the balloon is about to take off, Toto runs off and Dorothy chases after him, missing her ride home. In the book, the group gets lost on the way back and they call the Queen Mouse again. She tells them to use the witch's golden cap, which Dorothy had taken from the castle, to call the flying monkeys, and Dorothy uses her first wish to have the monkeys carry them back to Emerald City. During this time, the King Monkey tells Dorothy his whole history and why they must grant wishes to whomever has the golden cap. Once they're back in Emerald City, the wizard refuses to see them for days until Dorothy threatens to call the flying monkeys back. He gives them the same wishy-washy answer about giving them what they want and is discovered by Toto, but his gifts are a little different and it takes him a few days to come up with them. For Scarecrow, the wizard empties the straw from his head and fills it with a mixture of bran, pins, needles, and straw, so now he's sharp. He made a silk heart and stuffed it with sawdust for the Tin Man and then cut open his chest to place it inside. The wizard gave Lion a green drink so that courage would always be inside him after he drank it. For Dorothy, it's the same. He's going to take her back in the balloon, but Toto ruins it. The difference is that the wizard only leaves Scarecrow in charge of Emerald City. In the movie, Glinda magically appears as Dorothy worries how she'll get home after the balloon leaves without her, and tells Dorothy that she's had the power to go home all along. She just had to learn to appreciate the things she has. Dorothy says her goodbyes and then taps her heels together 3 times while saying, "There's no place like home." Dorothy wakes up in her bed back in Kansas where Aunt Em tells her it was all just a dream. Dorothy tries to convince them that it was real, but she's grateful to be home. In the book, Dorothy uses her second wish from the flying monkeys to ask them to take her home, but they say they can't leave their world, so she's just wasted a wish. The Emerald City Guard suggests that they go see Glinda the South Witch. It's a very long journey. This is when they face the fighting forest. Then they go through a town where everything is made of porcelain, including the people and animals. Then they come across a bunch of animals who ask Lion to kill a monster, which is a giant spider with the head of an elephant and legs as long as tree trunks. Lion agrees to help on the condition that they make him their king and then kills the monster easily. Finally, they get to a rocky hill filled with short people with no arms and flat heads, and they stretch their necks out and use their heads to knock down anyone who tries to climb up the hill. So Dorothy uses her last wish to have the monkeys fly them over the hill. When they get to Glinda, she says she'll tell Dorothy how to get home if she gives her the golden cap, which she'll use to send the Tin Man back to rule the Winkies, Scarecrow back to rule Emerald City, and Lion back to rule the forest. Then she'll give the cap back to the Monkey King and set them free. Dorothy agrees and says her goodbyes, clicks her heels 3 times, but here she says, "Take me home to Aunt Em." She lands shoeless on the grass in front of the new farmhouse her uncle had built, because the slippers fell off at some point during the flight home. She runs up to Aunt Em and tells her that she's just come from the land of Oz and that she's so glad to be home. So I had never read this book, and now I really want to go back and read the whole series because it's just so weird. My mom loved this movie, and she's a huge fan of Judy Garland. So this movie was a recurring favorite in our house, and it's a wonderful classic with some great songs that came from it. But it was kind of shocking for me as a kid watching Return to Oz after watching this movie, because Return to Oz was the stuff of nightmares. But now, after reading The Wizard of Oz, I get it, because there are some crazy-ass, nightmare-inducing creatures in this book. So now it makes sense. Obviously, the biggest change here is that they turned it into a musical. Giving kids songs they can sing seems like the right move. But what I didn't like about this adaptation is that they made the whole thing like it was all just a dream. I feel like maybe this was just a sign of the times. Dorothy is the protagonist of the story. She's a little girl who goes on this incredible journey. She manages to overcome insane obstacles and get herself home. I can't imagine the idea of a powerful female lead was a very popular idea in 1939. But hey, a little girl with a wild imagination? Okay. Thinking of this, I went back to look at the trailer for Return to Oz, and they want to treat Dorothy with shock therapy because she won't stop talking about Oz and how it was real. So maybe they were ready to talk about that kind of stuff in movies by 1985. Ultimately, it's a pretty good adaptation. It manages to keep the main parts of the story and whittle it down so the whole journey can happen in just a couple of days, rather than the weeks-long journey from the book. Also, it holds up. My 5-year-old enjoyed watching it for the first time, and I guess I'm kind of relieved that all the really crazy stuff was left out and I don't harbor any trauma from having watched it as a kid, the way I clearly do with Return to Oz. Well, there you have it. That's my recap on The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum and the 1939 movie adaptation. I've included links to both the book and movie in the description below so you can check them out for yourselves. If you enjoyed this review, please click like and be sure to click subscribe to see my next video. Thanks for watching.